welcome to one more game presented by Hoosier Pickleball. I am your host, Matt Brandenberger, alongside my stunning wife.
You used that word.
I did?
Yeah,
a long time ago when we first started.
The number one stunner.
That's right. Oh, that's and then
yeah.
you said that. So this is
Did
like
I?
There might have been
deja-
finger
It was
guns.
I don't
deja
know.
vu
Maybe
all
we've
over
done
again.
too many episodes with you.
But this is
So
Abigail,
over it.
aka Abby. How we doing? Any fun stories? Anything crazy going on in your world?
Yeah, we do have a funny story
You do?
about your our 6-year-old. We were driving along 75, and there's that.
This is Eleanor, yeah.
Yeah, there's the Air and Space Museum, the Neil Armstrong one.
Wapakoneta, Ohio.
And I have a daughter obsessed with space, and I was like, we should go to the space museum. I'm from Ohio, and Neil Armstrong's from Ohio, and that's super cool. And Eleanor's like, yeah, that's Daddy's friend, and we're like, what?
So I have a friend.
He also just died. Neil Armstrong died a couple years ago, so
right.
he's not alive.
Friend / coworker is Steve Armstrong, and so she knows. She must have just recognized his name and thought that was, my friend,
Daddy's friend.
But it goes beyond that
Right.
because she had actually
She had told her teacher.
She's like, yeah, I told Mrs. Rubel that I had that my daddy's friend was Neil Armstrong. And then the best part is I love her teacher's response. Mrs. Rubel is like our favorite. She's such a good, kind of a no nonsense first grade teacher. And she says, what'd she say?
Well, Eleanor goes, but then Mrs. Rubel goes, I doubt that.
Not like, oh, that's great. No, I doubt that. Yeah. Like just calling her BS.
We just laughed so hard.
That's great.
At Steve Armstrong, who walked on the moon.
Yeah. I don't
Daddy's friend.
I don't see Steve as an astronaut. Love Steve.
Not an astronaut.
Lots of talents. Not an astronaut. So, all right. Well, today we have a little bit of a different episode. We are taking some listener feedback questions that we've gotten. So, two topics these are pertaining to. One being nutrition. So we're going to start off talking some nutrition around pickleball. And then secondly, we're also going to talk about adoption because we've gotten a lot of questions lately saying, we've talked some about adoption back when we interviewed Marcus Woodhouse. He told his adoption story and just kind of some questions pertaining to that we'll get to as well. So Abs, kick us off with talking. You are the nutrition expert.
Not experts.
Well, way more of an expert than either Adam or I.
That's so true.
I think it's fair to say. But you are going to talk to us kind of about how specifically related to tournament nutrition. So when you're playing a long, grueling day of tournaments, how do you stay?
Well, I think that, you have to make sure that you don't eat. Well, I guess to me, this is a preference, but you can't eat too much. Because I personally can't have a lot of stuff in my belly when I'm playing in a tournament, but you have to stay somewhat with some calories, as you're burning so many calories through possibly a really long day. I mean, there's 7-8 hour long days and you can't get to the gold medal match and be lightheaded and not know where you're going. So,
because we have said this before that a lot of times tournaments are a battle of attrition as much as it is just skill. I mean, you at the beginning of the day, you play a team who is incredible, but if they're not taking care of themselves, staying hydrated. And eating right, they will look like a different team come the gold medal match.
Yeah, actually, hydration is a really good point. So thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
That is really important. I've actually experienced, I don't know that I said this at in the past when we talked about nationals. I was so dehydrated in nationals. The air is so dry out there. I could not drink enough. And there was even a day that I had to take some of your migraine meds because I had such a bad migraine from being dehydrated. Yeah. But I wasn't even sweating that much. So that was tricky. So,
you have to be intentional about that too. You have to be
intentional about drinking. And then I would even recommend the liquid IV. That's just there's also I call it NUN, N-U-U-N. I think people also call it Noon, but they're like hydration tabs and they help your body.
Noonan.
Did
That's
you
what
just
I'd call it.
okay? I don't know if you just came on here to say that,
Yeah.
just shouting out
All
words.
right. Back to the boards.
The liquid IV is kind of pricey, but we took it when we were in Vegas. We
Yeah.
went hiking and it was like 112 degrees.
Yeah.
And it really, because it actually allows your body to absorb more water than it otherwise would if you were just drinking plain water. So stay hydrated, drink more than you think you're gonna need.
Yeah.
Because that last game that Matt and I played in Nationals, I actually had multiple comments of, Abby, you just looked,
Yeah.
you looked dead. And I was like, I wasn't. I don't think I was,
Yeah.
but I was dehydrated.
You definitely did not look
I-
yourself or were
yeah.
acting like yourself. And I think it was,
I couldn't think very
Yeah.
well.
yeah.
I think that was dehydration.
So forcing yourself
Mm-hmm.
to drink, just make it a habit. Any time out, any, in between games, drink water, even if you're not thirsty.
Even if you don't think you're thirsty,
Right.
drink it, because the last thing you want to do is get a fuzzy brain
right.
in a tournament.
Yeah. Especially in outdoor tournaments
Uh-huh.
under the sun, and especially when you're out in the middle of the desert.
Right, right. And
Live and learn.
at a tournament you paid quite a bit of money to go to.
For sure. For sure.
So that, but then I was going to say the caloric intake
Mhm.
is important, but you don't want to like smash Snickers.
Right.
Maybe you do. I don't know.
I do.
I mean, I kind
Always
of do too,
satisfies.
but it
Mm.
does. You're not you when you're hungry. So I think one of the things that Matt and I actually both do is almonds mixed with chocolate chips.
Love that.
And what's
Yep.
so perfect about that is almonds have the protein and the fiber to keep you full.
Yep.
They don't have a ton of sugar though to give you energy, so that's where you mix in the chocolate chips, and that gives you the energy. So because your body does need sugar, it just does.
And what
So,
about then like trail mix, right? Kind of in
Any-
there, right? You can
yeah.
just buy the
the trail mix
Trader Joe's.
There you go.
of some sort?
We've
Hopefully it's
mentioned
better
that
than
before.
some disgusting drink.
Banana almond
Banana
milk
almond milk drink.
with
Sounds
with
that sounds
natural pea juice.
awful.
Ugh. Can't believe we brought that up again. That was so long ago.
So disgusting. So a lot of tournaments, I do appreciate this, provide bananas,
Yeah.
which I think are a really great source of all the things you need during a tournament. I personally hate granola bars.
I like granola bars.
You like granola bars?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a balance, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
I tend to when I'm competitive and my heart rate is up a little bit, I'm maybe a little nervous, I'm not hungry, my appetite kind of goes away. So like you have to force yourself to drink water,
Mm-hmm.
I have to force myself to have a few calories and to kind of make sure, especially if I don't, I'm sluggish by the end of that day. So
Yeah, even again back in Nationals, I was talking to this guy who has blood sugar issues, which I do as well. My blood sugar actually gets really low, and I literally start seeing stars, and my brain stops working, which is really frustrating.
that explains a lot.
It does. Like sometimes I'm like, I feel it coming, and I have to go. Actually, anyways, it happened this morning too, and it's either like I'm gonna pass out or barf. I don't know which, and I know that means I need to go get food. Anyways, this guy and I were talking, and I handed him a couple of, I think I actually handed him our bag of almonds and chocolate chips. And
Yeah.
I was like, you have to eat this whether you want to or not,
Right.
to keep your blood sugar up. Because when your blood sugar decreases and you're in the middle of a tournament, you cannot think clearly.
Yeah. And that's a problem.
It is a
in
problem.
such a cerebral game like
It
pickleball.
is when you're thinking through strategy. So
Yep. So that's good. Maybe kind of walk through, like, you listed a whole bunch of foods, but
yeah.
take me through, let's say that you have an 8 o'clock start.
Ooh, 8 o'clock. See, and that's the thing too. It depends on the time of day.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
man, it's so hard. Like a 3:30 start.
In the
It's
afternoon.
so hard.
Yeah. See,
Because-
I almost would prefer that because
Yeah.
I'm not a breakfast eater. So I almost have to force myself to eat some breakfast to kind of get going and get ready, but
Yeah.
not knowing how much. I'd prefer a later in the day start.
Yeah, I would not. I like 8 a.m. and then there are these protein bars that Costco sells that are actually really disgusting, but they have 20 grams or more grams of protein in it. And then I always follow that right before I play with a banana.
Okay.
So you got the protein and the banana.
Okay. So that's your before
That
you.
would be the 8 a.m.
Yeah, that'd be the 8 a.m. start.
Yeah.
And then while you're playing, are you just kind of snacking on those
Yeah,
almonds?
just in between games,
and just
grab a handful.
Yeah, just a baggie of almonds and chocolate chips. We're not talking like a huge bag, but just something to kind of munch on, keep those.
Yeah, I've seen
calories up.
people eat like little cuties, little orange cuties.
Yeah, fruit was the other thing I was going to say
Fruit,
too.
blueberries,
Pineapple and blueberries,
all those good
strawberries, all that. Chocolate covered strawberries.
Ooh, that'd be perfect.
That would be perfect. It's my favorite.
Yeah, but just, I mean, as a whole, if I'm gonna say just in general is nutrition though, you know, it's always good. I highly recommend the Orgain protein powder from Costco. I buy the chocolate. I have that every single day
Nice.
in a smoothie.
Yep.
And so that's actually got a lot of really good stuff in it. So if you're looking for a quick way to get good nutrition and get protein, Costco's got a really nice
Link in the show notes.
link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Holla.
Protein powder. Have you ever had it?
You've made me a couple smoothies.
Have I?
You kind of lose me when they turn green because you
I know.
like mix in some spinach
I
or
put
something.
tons of spinach and spring mix in it.
Can't do it.
And I put an avocado in it.
Yeah.
You know what I put tons of spinach in?
What?
The trash can.
My return on a serve.
It's been a while since we've
That
heard
was amazing.
spinach. We both didn't know.
Adam, that was perfect.
Well done, Adam.
I do eat this smoothie every single day.
Yeah, you
It's
do.
got collagen in it
And
and protein.
How
and
many of the girls will eat it?
I have 3 girls who will drink it
Drink
if
it.
I put a banana in it. I put a banana in it for them, not for me.
I feel once you go spinach and avocado,
Avocado.
You can't say drink it. You are eating that smoothie at that point.
It's so good and so full of nutrition.
Yeah.
I really feel like it's helped our family kick illnesses quicker. And
Yep. You've taken a lot of credit for that for sure.
are you thinking I shouldn't?
Yeah, I don't know if it's the smoothie or not.
Okay.
Anything else on the subject of nutrition, or did we
Yeah.
pretty much cover it?
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much just what we do.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have their own thing.
Yeah,
I know people who eat Twizzlers, and that's disgusting.
Yeah,
Snickers.
That's awful. That is not good tournament day nutrition.
yeah. So if you would leave us a comment or reach out to us, let us know what your routine is, or if there's something specific you like. Would love to
Yeah.
know it. I feel like that's an area I could still get a little bit better in as well. Even the things that I do, sometimes I feel like I'm not quite where I want to be.
Are
at
you
the end of the day.
referring to the Pop-Tarts you ate the other morning on the way to pickleball?
Maple and brown sugar.
That's
Were
my
they
favorite.
Were they s'mores?
But they were s'mores. Second favorite.
I don't know that I've
I like
bought
the old school
Pop-Tarts.
strawberry with the frosting.
I can't do that.
You know, you mentioned that you could use a little help.
Yeah.
If only you had a wife who cared,
Right.
who
she
knew
Yeah.
what to do.
She cares enough not to bug me.
So I cared.
Bug 'em.
I cared 10 years ago,
Right.
and it was better for our marriage for me to stop caring.
Right.
So I do
That's-
not.
Remember we did that episode one time about the growth mindset? That's
Abby's growth mindset is stop irritating your husband about
And
nutrition.
his is to stop bot coaching you every single point.
point. Yeah.
Every single point.
Every
or something.
11th, maybe.
Yeah, 11th.
Yeah. Something like
I
that.
did,
Yeah.
I did the math on what irks
That'd
you.
be great. 11th would be perfect.
All right. Well, let's leave that topic there,
Mm-hmm.
and we are going to take a quick break. Then we're going to come back, and we're going to get into another question or two that we've had about adoption. So get a little bit personal in the next segment, but we will be right back.
Are you new to the game of pickleball and looking to learn the basics? Or maybe you're an experienced player who wants to take your game to the next level? Both Matt and I would love to help.
That's right, Abby. We are both Level 2 IPTPA certified instructors and would love working with you, either giving you private lessons, group lessons, or hosting a clinic. We also offer unique video coaching utilizing the latest in drone technology. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok by searching Hoosier Pickleball, or email us at HoosierPickleball@gmail.com. Also, check out the show notes for all the links to our social channels. All right, welcome back to one more game presented by Hoosier Pickleball. So today we had a couple listener questions. We talked about nutrition in the first segment, and now we want to talk about our adoption. We've had lots of questions pertaining to adoption and our story, I think kind of stemming from back when we did our interview with Marcus Woodhouse, and he shared his adoption story. He was adopted at a very young age, and people just kind of asking more about our adoption story, which we shared a little bit about. But two of the questions that keep coming up, and one that we get quite a bit, is just in terms of the cost of adoption. And I remember that was a huge concern for me. I mean, initially when we first got married, I've said this before, Abby was talking about adoption right away, even before we encountered any infertility issues. And I was like, school teacher, I don't think I'm going to be able to afford this. So it was definitely a concern for me. So maybe just kind of talk about the accessibility of adoption for everybody out there.
Yeah, I I get that question a lot. Isn't it expensive? And people think that's a roadblock to adoption. And my response always is, we adopted 3 children, 2 of them when Matt was a teacher and I was barely working, and one of them, now Matt had gotten a promotion, but of all people, we should not be able to afford the adoption fees.
Right.
But I mean, in the end, the Lord always provides, always. I've never, and I, being in the adoption community, I know a lot of stories, and I've never seen the Lord not provide for an adoption. Now, I have to say, there's sometimes work you have to do, but that's okay. I think kids are worth working for.
Absolutely.
I don't think you should just hand out children like candy. It's just
probably good
just
advice.
my opinion.
Yeah. No, I think it's most people.
yeah.
It's not just yours.
Now listen, is there a point where adoption fees, are we selling kids? Maybe I can get offended by super steep adoption fees, but there is a point where it's like,
Right. There's a balance to that for sure.
Yeah, there's an investment in this. You want to be invested in this process.
Yeah.
So for, there's always grants and loans you can get. Now, we did get a grant from a company called Life Song for Orphans.
We'll definitely put them in the show notes. They were amazing.
We had a matching grant, which means we sent out letters to our family and friends.
Which
and
was
we're
not
like,
my favorite. I hate asking people for money.
But it fully funded Olivia's adoption. And, I actually had a friend say, like, hey, I got to put up my money where my mouth is. Here I am saying I support adoption, but what am I doing to support adoption? So I'm going to give you some money. And it was just really gracious of them to do that. And then there's another company we've worked closely with called Both Hands. And basically that's raising money. So you find a widow. So it comes from James 1:27, pure and faultless religion, caring for the widow and the orphan. Okay, so
those are the both hands.
Both hands, the widow and the orphan. So you find a widow, either in your church, in your community. Approach her, ask her, what can we do for your house, for your yard? Do you need anything done? Then you raise the money to do that. So you're not raising money to run a marathon or golf 18 holes. You're raising money to fund your adoption by working on. So we'll link to Both Hands in the show notes so you can maybe get a better idea. I don't know if
we've been involved in about 3 or 4 of those projects, and so you end up raising all this money. They're basically, supporting you. Like, so you send these letters out to your friends and family and say you're going to help us with this project, and then they send letters out to other people asking for money to work on the project. So they get sponsorships, and then that money all goes to fund the adoption.
So a widow, maybe gets all of her landscaping redone, and at the same time, you're funding this adoption. I just remember this one adoption, because it was from somewhat of an obscure country. The price was a little higher than maybe the average. And I'm just going to throw out a number. I'm going to say $30,000. Okay, I don't know exactly. I don't remember now, but I was involved in their Both Hands project, and she needed $30,000. And I remember cracking up so hard at the total amount she raised was $30,001. And I was like, I felt like that was
and it's
just
even
so
it was
funny
even crazier
to me.
than that, because it was like an odd amount. It was like 27,550, and they got it was just
$1.
plus 1. Yeah.
And I just felt like the Lord was like, see,
Right.
I'll even give you more than you need. I will give you $1 more.
You can go get a drink at McDonald's.
Yeah. I was going to say a double cheeseburger, but I don't think
They're
that's
more
under
than $1, buddy.
You're right.
So is a drink at McDonald's.
Back then, maybe.
$1.08. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I'll find you 8 cents.
And I mean, I can tell you story after story after
Right.
story of adoptions being fully funded when you put in some time and some energy.
Yep.
But never let the money be a block to pursuing an adoption, if that's
Absolutely.
what you want to do.
Yeah. And for me, it was an incredible faith building, seeing that happen, thinking there's no way. I mean, if you'd have told me when we first started the process that we would adopt 3 children, I'd have been like,
We don't have the money for that.
absolutely no way. But yeah, through, and there's grants beyond there. There's tax write-offs and things like that. But I do agree with you that there should be some work, and I give you credit. You put so much of the work in terms of the paperwork and kind of getting the ball rolling. That stuff just overwhelms me. And you did the legwork, and most of the money, I mean, out of pocket, we didn't end up. It wasn't a huge burden for us. It was a lot of work, and it took a lot of humility and generosity from other people to make it all happen. But
Yeah, but I always likened it to, I could not at the time get pregnant, and that's 9 months of work. And now that I've been pregnant, that was work. I am not a great pregnant lady. I am not delightful or glowing or beautiful. I am a hideous monster.
I wish I could
who
disagree.
Wants to kill everybody. And so those 9 months of being horrible.
Right.
Is very equal to the 9 months I spent doing the loans and doing the
Yeah.
paperwork and all of that. So it's, you got to put your work in somewhere.
Right, for sure. And you wouldn't want it to be too easy, like you said, or
Right.
any
They're humans.
crazy person could
Right.
adopt. So it does take some effort, but
Yeah.
all worth it in the end. I would highly recommend it. And please, above all the pickleball stuff that we talk about, if you'd ever have any questions, we have sat down and kind of counseled people and helped them get started countless times, and would love to do that no matter where you're at. So
Yeah.
we obviously, being from Indiana, know a lot more of the adoption laws in Indiana and could help out if you're more local. But no matter where you're at, we love adoption and would love to.
We can at least help you get started, because it is very overwhelming to think about the beginning of it.
Absolutely. All right. The other question that we've gotten quite a bit is just kind of in terms of our story. Again, when Marcus shared his story, talked about how his parents, his adoptive parents, handled letting him know or telling their kids. How did they talk about adoption? So we've gotten the question, well, how do you guys do that? You have a family with 3 adopted children and 2 biological. And I think it's a great question. I love to share this because of the ignorance that I had around this before we adopted. So I knew a couple families, growing up that had adopted kids, and my perception of them now, when I look back, it was so ignorant and almost embarrassing. Like the fact that I kind of thought like, oh, that's nice. And, this family has a couple biological kids of their own, they have their kids, and then they, I'm air quoting.
Right. They have somebody else's kids
and
too.
then they have some other kids too. And, I'm sure that they love them all, but there's, probably something more special about their own, biological
yeah.
kids. And that couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
And we talk about adoption openly in our family. I cannot even imagine, some families that don't tell their kid that they're adopted until they're like a certain age. I mean, we prayed for their birth mothers, from the moment they were infants, as part of kind of our daily, nightly prayer routine.
Right.
And it was never like, when are we going to tell them? Like
Well,
that just sounds crazy. And I know there's some people that choose that, and there might be certain circumstances,
No.
but no,
No, they're
Abby will
wrong.
just say no. I'm trying to have some grace.
I'm not.
But absolutely 100%. I do think it's best for the
Right.
kids to,
Right. Answering and being upfront with the girls, or the if you have a boy, in an age appropriate way. So you
Yeah.
give them the full information, leaving words out if they're too young, but they should know their story.
and what do you
Right
mean,
away.
What do you mean by that? Just in terms of just their birth, and that they came
Like
out of another mommy gave birth to them.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there's obviously some really hard stories, and so from the youngest age, they should know, to the extent of their ability to understand. They should know that I shouldn't at 15 have to sit them down and be like, I have to tell you this part of your story.
Yeah.
Like they should know
Right. And each
without
of our,
going into too many details,
Sure.
which I'm not going to on a podcast.
right. And each of our girls have 3 very unique stories and 3 different relationships on various levels with their birth mothers or birth families. So, and that's a good point as well, that you have to be strategic in when you talk about certain aspects of it. But, for us, we have 3 African-American daughters who are adopted. It's not as though it's something we would have ever been able to
It's not a
hide
secret.
from them. I just think it is super
Yeah.
important to it's communication. It's just being open with your kids and having them know and understand their story, and communicating with them the beauty of their
Mhm.
story, and with our faith, how it relates even to God's redemptive story of our lives. And we believe as Christians that we're all adopted into
Yeah.
God's family. So
Yeah, and I feel like this is a really important part for adoptive parents. I remember having, one of numerous conversations with our children, but one of them in particular, Olivia. She didn't necessarily verbalize this, but I could tell something was weighing on her, and I feel like maybe she didn't even know what it was, but she was asking about her birth mom, and I said, I just remember seeing the weight lift off her shoulders when I said, Liv, I have 5 daughters, and I love all 5 of you. Did you know you can love your birth mom? Because you can love 2 moms, and that's okay.
you don't have to pick.
You don't have to,
Because I love 5 daughters.
because
Yeah.
I
Right,
love
is-
5 daughters. You can love 2 moms.
Yeah.
And she was like you could just see it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I've given them the permission to love their birth families. Hopefully we meet all of them someday, but that
Yeah.
may or may not happen. But
Yeah.
it's okay to love other people.
Yeah.
I know they love me.
Yeah. And that's the other point I would say along this topic as well, is the ignorance that I had that now is laughable in terms of, how will I feel, about their birth families? Are they going to want to take them back, or like, is there going to be like this rivalry type thing? And it couldn't be further from that. I mean, we would desire ideally to have a relationship with all of their birth families and birth mothers. The one that has a pretty, a good relationship that we see from time to time, it makes me tear up every time, because it's just so sweet to see the sacrifice she made, to see the joy that it brings her of seeing, our daughter doing so well. And it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of emotions wrapped up in it, but it's amazing.
I said this before. That's why the word bittersweet was created, because there's a lot of sweet and a lot of bitter, and that's okay.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. That got a little heavy there.
Woo!
Woof. Let's talk some more pickleball.
Good stuff.
Actually, we're going to call this an episode.
Yeah.
But we wanted to kind of address a couple of those questions that we've been getting. Please keep your questions coming. HoosierPickleball@gmail.com is where you can send those, and we would love to have more episodes where we kind of tackle some of those. Let's end with something we love.
Yeah.
You got something?
I love adoption.
That's great. Can I just echo that?
Yeah.
You always go with the deep ones.
I
and
do.
I'm like, I love.
Well, that's perfect.
I'm
meatballs.
just you love meatballs? Is that what you said?
That's what I said. You usually come up with something super deep, and then I'm just like,
I love a meatball sub.
I'm just gonna go.
That's okay.
I do.
You can also love that.
So yeah, I'll just echo yours. I love every part about adoption. So
Until next time.
until next time, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all you do. We love our pickleball community. We love our adoption community. See you next time. As always, we want to thank our sponsors, Hoosier Pickleball, Indiana Physical Therapy, and Pickleball Rocks. In addition, a big thank you to our production company, Coraggio Media, and the 95.7 WELT studio in beautiful downtown Fort Wayne. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or find us on YouTube at One More Game Pod. That's the number 1 More Game Pod. Hit that subscribe button and be sure to leave us a 5-star rating to help us spread the word. You can also find us on Facebook and TikTok at Hoosier Pickleball for all kinds of fun, tips, tricks, and other family nonsense, and also some great discussion. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.